Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and oh, what a time to be an XRP holder. Look at this headline from the Crypto Basic. Trump media finalizes deal to launch multiple Made in America crypto ETFs. Will XRP be included? I'm going to go ahead and tell you right off the bat that I speculate very strongly the answer is yes. And everybody can see that XRP makes sense now. Everybody that doesn't suffer from XRP derangement syndrome anyway. In fact, this comes just after a major investment firm has predicted that XRP may reach $29. Now, folks, that is not some Moon Boy stuff. That is not something from some pseudonymous individual on the Webernets. No, this is from a major investment firm which seeks to launch an XRP ETF. It's just amazing everything that's coming together right now. None of this is Fantasyland stuff. It's just that most people genuinely do not know that this is something that can be life-changing for them. Like, most people just have no idea that XRP even exists. And here we are, the privileged few, the less than 1% of humans that have ever bought it, sitting here talking about this stuff on a daily basis. I consider it quite a privilege, frankly. We are right. Now, we had to go through hell the last several years to get to this point, but we were right. Before going further, though, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so to kick this off, what is this investment firm I'm referencing? It is Bitwise. Here you can see a headline from October 2nd, 2024. Bitwise files Form S1 for Bitwise XRP ETP, and an ETF is a type of ETP. And so this is also, of course, the same day. As soon as that happened, you know why the SEC did this, but the very same day that this comes down, a day that's supposed to be really exciting for XRP holders, they decided to announce publicly that they're going to be filing an appeal against Ripple. Now, of course, we know that's all going away thanks to the way the election went down. But that was the SEC's attempt to try and squash things, very obviously, because they're just absolutely vindictive little pricks, just terrible creatures, those asshats. But anyway, so Bitwise, they were optimistic about this, and good for them for recognizing this made sense before the election went down the way that it did. It would have been easier to pile on after, and, you know, nothing against any firm that did. I'm just saying that that shows a vote of confidence even prior to that. And then they shared a document, and I did cover this in a previous video, so I'm going to try to not spend too much time on this, but I just wanted to share full context. Like, the idea that XRP is just going to, like, hang out at this low price here, no, not forever. I don't pretend to know what the trajectory is exactly going to look like, but can you imagine another 5 or 10 years out? XRP just keeps getting adopted? Like, it's Bitwise. This is a respectable firm in the world of crypto. And so they recently put out this document highlighting their kind of base case, bearish case, and bull case for XRP over the next half a decade. And I'm just telling you, these price points we talk about, they're even Bitwise clearly agrees, and they're not promising anything. Nobody can reasonably do so. But they don't think it's pie in the sky stuff either. So the headline here again, Bitwise releases XRP investment guide, the investment case for XRP for professionals. And this is it right here. And again, I covered this on the channel before, but I want to make sure everybody's aware of these types of numbers. And it only becomes more clear, especially with the latest news I'm going to jump into right after this, because you know that XRP is going to be in tons of different ETFs. So there will be individual XRP ETFs. There will be multi-asset ETFs, which XRP will be a part of. And so people that don't know anything about XRP, if they just want some exposure to the asset class, it's going to be easy. With brokerage firms they already have accounts with. They just be like, okay, oh, it's here now. This is the thing I can now purchase. And then bam. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. And it's all backed by actual crypto, actual XRP, which is why this is a huge deal. And so when you look at these figures here from Bitwise, I can see... because this would have been part of the calculus here. Now, part of what they're talking about here is also, you know, the fact that XRP has utility. That's another reason they're jazzed up about this, and I say fair enough to that. What isn't sufficiently acknowledged in here, and I mentioned this before, it's just that it's not sufficiently acknowledging 4-year market cycles. So that would be my strongest criticism of this. But other than that, like I'm appreciative of the fact that they're recognizing the importance of utility, and clearly they understand big picture what's going on. And as far as the bear case, which I'll still highlight in this video, which sounds really bad, it would be terrible for everybody if it went down. They're being responsible. They're saying, because look, they're going to be, their intent is to offer XRP as an ETF. So they got to be transparent and lay it out the good, the bad, the ugly, even if they don't think the ugly is going to happen. So I can respect that still. But anyway, so check this out. To evaluate XRP's prospective value, Bitwise employed the capital asset pricing model, CAPM, adjusting for risk factors such as regulatory shifts, macroeconomic uncertainty, and an industry competition. The firm used this framework to estimate price targets for bearish, bullish, and super bullish scenarios. In its most optimistic projection, XRP could reach $4.48 by the end of 2025. Now, folks, if we're saying that it gets there and that's the height, that seems silly to me, because what does that mean? It goes up a little bit, but we don't have a full-blown alt run? Because if we do, XRP is going to run. So just my humble opinion, that's a little bit silly. Now, on the flip side, if we get the bear case, which we'll get to in a second, I'm just like, well, okay, couple things. You know what? Let me just hold off until we get there. Let me run through this first. Because this is probably closer to hitting the mark, if anything, out of anything that they produced here anyway. From 2028 onwards, Bitwise forecasts XRP consistently trading in the double digits, starting at $13 and potentially hitting $20 by 2029. The model culminates in an ambitious $29 target for 2030. Now, folks, okay. There are tons of analysts that I find to be reputable who think that we could be hitting that this year. And fine, maybe they're wrong. Kudos to them for sticking their necks out, because when analysts are wrong about their expectations and predictions, there's nobody that gets it more aggressively to the negative on the internet than those individuals here. But I'm just saying, if you're talking about XRP getting up, what if it goes that high this cycle? What do you think that means by another 4 to 5 years out? Like, even their ultra bullish case, which I can appreciate still, what if that's too conservative? Makes me wonder here. Anyway, notably, this scenario assumes XRP becomes central to the booming tokenization and global payment space. With the tokenization market expected to top $11 trillion by the end of the decade, Bitwise suggests that even a modest 1 to 2% share could significantly enhance XRP's value. Right. And so that's in line with my investment thesis, which at its core is utility matters and will win the day. So if XRP is getting used for stuff, then as people want to jump in and invest in the space, they're just going to buy the things that get used, whatever the scale is. Even if it's 1 to 2%, they'll be like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. Looks like it's doing stuff, probably not going away. Okay. That's how people are going to look at this. So that's why I've always said, even if there were just one legit use case, that's enough, but XRP has multiple use cases. Anyway, in a moderately bullish outlook, Bitwise anticipates XRP peaking at $3.90 in 2025 and gradually climbing to around $8 by 2028. By 2029, it may cross into double digits, reaching $10 before topping out at $13 by 2030. Well, you know what? At least they're acknowledging double digits make sense for XRP. I do appreciate that. It's just the timeline where I'm kind of like, really? Another half a decade just to get to double digits? I mean, if they're right, credit where it's due, but I doubt that that's what they think is the most probable outcome, personally. And then check out the bear case here, though. And, they got to do this. It's fine. On the other end of the spectrum, Bitwise projects that XRP could fall to $1.82 this year. Okay, actually, I got to pause there already. It could, but if it... What are we talking... What's the rest of the circumstances in crypto under which this would occur? Have we already had a blow-off top? Like, did XRP already peak at like 10, 11, 12 bucks? Did that happen? And then it fell like 80% or whatever down to close to $2? Like, what are we talking about here? Or does it not do that and then it falls to $1.82 anyway? What are we talking about here? Like, it doesn't run any further and it falls to $1.82 and that's how it ends the year? Because look, the only way something like that's going to happen for 2025, in my mind anyway, is if the entire crypto asset class doesn't run any further, which I think it's going to run. I've made that very clear. History rhymes with itself. Everything's so perfectly primed up. XRP's been artificially suppressed for years, so it's going to run even hard. It's already running the hardest out of the top 100 coins. It just is, which is no surprise to me, and probably no surprise to you if you've been paying attention, right? So fine, if there's some black swan event and like everything really does fall apart, okay, well then XRP doesn't, but it wouldn't be because of something XRP specific in my mind here. But then they also write the decline could continue with XRP potentially dropping as low as $1.07 in 2026 and to just 13 cents by 2030. Look, if something actually happens and XRP is no longer found to be useful, or there's a hole in the code that can't be patched, something like that, if there's something wacky, bizarre that we really couldn't have reasonably foreseen, fine. Is that remotely probable, though? No, I don't think so personally. So, but look, regardless, it's nice to see a firm like this, talking about something like this. And by the way, it's also nice to see that they've got their index here showing the market cap and prices for each individual coin here, and that they don't show stable coins on here by default. Could we just get Live Coin Watch and CoinMarketCap to stop by default showing stable coins? You should have to change a metric because stable coins are such different animals. If you want to see them in that list, that's fine. Toggle something so that then they pop up, because nobody's going to Live Coin Watch to find out if, Tether is still $1. Like, nobody's doing that. We just have to stare at it, and then it muddies the waters when we're trying to figure out what the actual top 10 are. But anyway, so it's nice to see XRP hanging out at number 3 here. But let me show you an even cooler index. Because big picture, like there's good reason for Bitwise to be optimistic. And I can appreciate that they're talking about, the actual utility being a primary factor. Because I do believe that without that utility, there's no way XRP would have consistently stayed in the top 10 coins by market cap. Obviously, there's something different about XRP compared to almost every other freaking coin on the planet. Duh. So look at this index. This is even better, though. This is CoinMarketCap. But the filter is on for Made in America. And XRP is the number 1 coin if you filter this way. Number 1 in market cap for the Made in America segment. The reason this is getting tracked is if you go back even a few months ago, this metric didn't exist on websites, but here it is now. It exists because the Trump administration has declared that this matters. And as you well know, there's been lots of talk about this in months, so I'm not going to beat this to death. But I want to make sure everybody's aware. Trump has stated that those cryptocurrencies that are made in America deserve preferential treatment. XRP is the biggest one that there is. So that, whether you agree with that, disagree with that, that's the state of things. There are reasons that Trump has been explicitly not just meeting with Ripple, which Brad Garlinghouse even said, we were talking about XRP as potentially as a reserve currency, and he goes, you guys know how that stuff shook out, but still. Trump he's talked about XRP being held in the national stockpile. And so I still think that there's very good reason to be optimistic that XRP is going to be part of this. And the narrative as far as putting importance, preferential treatment on those Made in America cryptos, that hasn't changed, folks. Which is why this is so damn exciting. Trump media finalizes deal to launch multiple Made in America crypto ETFs. Will XRP be included? Well, duh, the answer is yes. Now they have to announce that, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I really don't. Do you understand how much money Ripple has donated? And I just got to tell you, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but we could all, as adults, recognize that helps, right? That's not exactly going to hurt. I know XRP is its own thing. It's decentralized. Trump, in his world, is viewing a cryptocurrency that is created in America as a special type of thing. And he's meeting with a CEO of a company that is utilizing it in actual payment flows the world over, and he's learned a bit about it as a result. This is all very obviously positive, and so he understands more about the utility. And anyone around him is going to keep telling him the same thing. Yes, this thing makes sense. So if you're talking about a multi-asset crypto ETF, why, and it's made in America, why wouldn't XRP be a part of that? That makes no goddamn sense. Of course it will be a part of this thing. And this is what we're talking about here. To be clear, this is what we're talking about. And so this is another, like several minutes or so ago when I was talking about how you're going to live in this world where people want to diversify and invest in the crypto, but they don't necessarily, want to engage in custody themselves, so on and so forth. You don't want to set up a new account, on Coinbase or whatever. Well, whatever platform they're already on, it could be Charles Schwab or whatever, specifically Charles Schwab, actually. Uh, they'll just have a new option to purchase. It's more access specifically to XRP. I mean, of course, multi-asset, but still, it's XRP is specifically a part of that then. So check this out. President Donald Trump's media company finalizes its deal with Crypto.com and Yorkville America Digital to launch several crypto ETFs. The partners have decided to move from a non-binding agreement memorandum announced in March to a binding agreement for the launch of several ETFs under Trump Media's fintech arm, TruthFi. According to the press release, the ETFs will focus on made in America cryptos. Folks, this isn't just Moon Lambo saying it, that's a thing. Again, ETFs will focus on made in America cryptos, XRP, and securities across diverse sectors. Crypto.com's broker-dealer arm, Forest Capital, will roll out these financial products later this year, pending regulatory approval. Once launched, the products will be made available across international trading platforms in the United States, Europe, and Asia. Per the announcement, leading American multinational law firm Davis Polk and Wardwell, LLP, will provide legal guidance to the partners. In addition to the ETFs, Truth Media will launch a series of TruthFi separately managed accounts, SMAs, to support these financial products. Trump Media will invest up to $250 million of its cash reserves in the ETFs and SMAs. Notably, Charles Schwab will serve as the custodian. That's right. So Charles Schwab, by the way, and I mentioned this in a separate video, and this is huge. Charles Schwab, CEO, eyes spot Bitcoin trading by April 2026. You're talking about actual spot trading, just like on Coinbase. You can buy and sell Bitcoin just like that by April of next year. And then you're talking about custody of cryptocurrencies, including XRP. You got to understand, Charles Schwab is gigantic. They have $7.13 trillion rather. $7.13 trillion in assets under management. Last I checked about a week or so ago, or several days ago, whatever it was. So that's huge. That's absolutely freaking huge. And so then everybody that buys and sells on that major platform will have access. I mean, I think that's ultimately where it's going to go. They're starting with Bitcoin, but I think you're going to see all sorts of other stuff, ETFs. I think it's obvious. What's going to happen is you're going to continue to see the blurring of lines between traditional finance and crypto, and eventually it's all going to look about the same. In fact, I didn't plan to talk about it in this video, but I believe Coinbase just the other day announced that they're looking to become like a chartered bank. So they started in crypto, and then they're going to be like literally a traditional style bank the way they're chartered, but they're offering crypto services. And so, but then on the flip side, there are banks that had never touched crypto that are getting into custody of crypto, and maybe some of them will even get into trading. Who knows? So the lines are getting blurred. It's just all just going to be a thing. Which is what I was predicting, and I wasn't the first to predict this, but I was predicting this back in 2017 when I first found out about crypto. I was like, this all just makes sense directionally. Look at where everything's going. To me, it always just seemed like a no-brainer here. So of course this is all happening, but it's just so freaking cool to see that this is an ETF, and obviously this will ultimately get approved, and XRP, I think it's a virtual certainty, is going to be a major part of this. And if you weight it based on which coins have most market dominance, then XRP should be weighted pretty damn heavily. So again, to tie it all back together, when I see from a major investment firm, Bitwise, talking about $29 XRP, I'm like, that doesn't sound crazy. That does not sound remotely crazy. And even at the price levels compared to where we are now, hovering a little over $2, that would be life-changing for a ton of people if that comes to pass. It's not pie in the sky moon boy stuff. This is real. It's just that there's not much money in the crypto asset class, so it doesn't take much money flowing in to get crazy multiplier effects, as I've been saying for years now. Everyday people, and I'm just, there's nothing special about me. I'm a regular dude. I just happen to have a YouTube channel. That doesn't make me special, though. Regular people like you and I, we absolutely can get ours. I don't know about you, but I am. You can. It's up to you, but everybody can do it. It's the most empowering freaking thing from a financial perspective I've ever known to exist in my entire life. It is that amazing. So I'm looking forward to this. It's ultimately going to happen. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.